We're continuing to talk about the compounds of life. We've talked about carbohydrates, and now we'll talk about lipids. The elements found in lipids are carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen, or CHO. And there are three categories of lipids. Fats is the first, and they come from an animal source, and they are generally solid at room temperature. Donuts. We usually think about donuts as being fat, and they probably are. But this next photo is of a piece of meat, and that's really what fat is. If you can see the marbleized part of the meat, or the little veins of white in it, that's called marbling, and when you barbecue it, it makes it nice and juicy. But if you take all the fat out and you render it or cook it, it turns into a substance called lard. This is a picture of pork lard, I think. My friend says that lard makes the best pie crust. She does make pretty good pies. But they take the animal fat and they cook it down and they package it just like butter. You can buy this in the supermarket, and it makes you can use it for whatever you want to. I'm not sure it's very good for you though. Yum. This is a diagram of saturated fats. The top two are saturated, which means that all animal products or all fats are saturated fats. And they have a long chain of carbons. Every carbon is completely filled with hydrogen. They pack together tightly, and they're really hard for the body to break down. The next category of lipids is waxes, and these can be found on the surface of plant leaves, in your ears, and bees make their hives from a beeswax. Oils is the last category. They're plant-based, and they're liquid at room temperature. Examples would be corn oil, sesame oil, walnut oil, olive oil. Perhaps you've made a pasta salad, put it in the refrigerator, taken it out, and it's all congealed. It's because it's not at room temperature, and so therefore it's a solid. These are considered to be unsaturated fats. So an unsaturated fat has sort of a V shape, and in the carbon chain it has a double bond. The one to the left doesn't count. It has to be between the long chains. It's easier to break down, and so the body deals with unsaturated fats easier. The purpose of lipids is long-term storage of energy. We tend to store it on our bodies in different places, and that's upsetting to some people because they don't want to have fat, and they try not to eat fat. It is essential, though, that we have some fat on our body. It's also part of the cell membrane. It's called a phospholipid bilayer. You'll see a picture of that in a moment. 2 layers of phospholipids. It acts as an insulation. Fat keeps us warm, and it also cushions our organs. It's also found in our sex hormones. They're lipid-based. So testosterone and estrogen are the sex hormones, and those are the ones as teenagers they're raging up and down, and they're making you crazy and making the adults afraid of you. So here's a picture of the cell membrane, and the orange dots and with those little things hanging down is a fat molecule. It's a lipid, and so there are 2 layers of lipids that are on either side of the cell membrane, and it helps to protect the cell, and it regulates what goes in and out of the cell. Our sex hormones are hydrophobic, and so they are fat soluble, so they can go through the cell membrane pretty easily. So what impact does food have on your life? A lot. Globally, there are about 1 billion adults that are overweight. And considering that the population of the whole world is just approaching 7 billion, that's staggering. There are about 300 million people that are considered obese, adults that are considered obese. The population of the United States is a little over 300 million. So that would be as if every single person in the U.S. was obese. It's amazing what's happening to our country. Women have an average body fat of about 15 to 31%, which ticks off most women. We just have more body fat. Mother Nature loves us and wants to make sure that we're well protected for, and we don't really appreciate it. If you go below a 13%, you're going to have reproductive issues. Men have an average body fat of about 15%, and we envy men. But if they go below 15%, they're in trouble too. You need a certain percentage of body fat to be healthy. So what kinds of food should you eat? Avocados and nuts are certainly very good for you because they're unsaturated. HDLs and LDLs are the problem though. LDLs are carriers, protein carriers, and they carry cholesterol, which is a fatty, waxy substance that's made by the liver, to the arteries. And the LDLs are very bad because they get stuck in the arteries as plaque. HDLs carry cholesterol away from the arteries and back to the liver where it's moved out of the body. You need cholesterol, your body makes it. It's only when it's in excess that it's really a problem. So here's a visual of these two guys with LDLs and HDLs. LDLs only cause problems. They sit around, they get stuck in your arteries, and they cause problems. Whereas the HDLs are always in there cleaning up, making sure your arteries are fine, and taking all of the cholesterol back to the liver where it can be broken down. So cholesterol is a fatty, waxy substance. It's made by the liver, and we need it. We need it to build cell walls and cell membranes. And it's a problem only when we have too much. Your body makes most of the cholesterol that you need, and so when you eat a lot of animal products like dairy and meat, then you have an increase of cholesterol. And LDL is a type of cholesterol that is not so good. It builds up in your arteries and it can cause heart disease. The HDLs are the good guys. They remove the excess cholesterol from your body, and they take it back to the liver so that it can be processed. So the things that you can do to have a healthy heart are to don't smoke, don't even start. If you're feeling like you're a little overweight, then lose weight. Go to phys ed. Exercise is important. All these things lower your LDLs and increase your HDLs. Eat healthy fats like unsaturated fats, and we've talked about that, the olive oils, the things that have the double bonds in them so that your body can break them down. And don't drink. It's awful for you. It'll kill you. So just don't even start drinking. It will increase your LDLs and it will decrease your HDLs. You have enough problems as teenagers without drinking and smoking and carrying on. So take care of your body. If you are convinced that you need to eat these kinds of things, take a look at this next picture that's coming up with the fried foods and donuts and those kinds of things. It's going to cause serious problems with your heart. And here's what will happen to your heart. Your heart has arteries in it, and those are the ones that can get clogged up if you're eating too many animal products, and the plaque can get stuck in them. A remedy if you have too much plaque is called angioplasty. It's kind of like a big roto-rooter, and it goes into, they put a long line into the vessel that's plugged, and they blow up this little balloon, and the balloon then flattens the plaque against the surface. It's a temporary fix, but it works pretty well. They might put a shunt in there as well. The other extreme is open heart surgery or bypass surgery, where they actually take a portion of your vessel from usually your leg, and they will bypass the clog in your heart. So they'll stitch it to the one side and bypass where the clog is. Now, this is a surgery that can be prevented. They have to open up your chest, tap your chest right there. That's a hard bone that they have to open up. Very invasive surgery, not necessary. So your homework is, what are 3 things you can do to have a healthy heart? You really want to avoid these surgeries, and you can if you pay attention to what you're eating, if you go to phys ed, and you exercise as much as you can. So what are the 3 things you can do to have a healthy heart? And if you live to be 80, how many times will your heart beat? Pretty important that the heart keeps beating. How many times does it beat in your lifetime if you live to 80?